We are born afraid. Thrust into a world of light and noise, our entire lives are spent panicking anxiously from one catastrophe to the next. Our ancestors faced this issue with more natural fears. The fear of being eaten, the fear of starving to death, or losing a loved one. These days, these fears have largely been replaced by our fear of being unable to perform to society's expectations, or the terror of losing everything we hold dear. The thing that fascinates me the most about this ever-present fear in our life, that some people seek out just as much as others shun it, is the crippling fear of the unknown. It's been said in many journals and papers on the topic that humans crave normality, a simple pattern or routine that gives their lives purpose and security, something that we can live within while exploring other topics. Disrupt this rhythm, whether in the past with a poor harvest or flood, or in the present with losing your job or your security, and you quickly find that the person being targeted falls apart, collapsing under the weight of insecurities, of anxieties or stresses that will afflict their mental state so harshly that it will inevitably begin to gnaw at their physical well-being. The fascinating thing about this topic, specifically about the fear of the unknown, is how few games and contents that we indulge in can utilize this with great effect. Many horror games present themselves as new, innovative, and cutting edge with their horror, but in turn deliver a simple gameplay loop that has been explored so many times before, leaving people missing that very visceral, terrified feeling. There is nothing strictly wrong with this approach. Sometimes the familiar can still be eerie and unnerving, and depending on what you're trying to produce as a horror creator, this can be the better approach for you. But if you really want to make a splash, if you really want to become a horror icon, you need to push the unknown, the envelope. And that's becoming harder and harder as more and more people play horror games, because unknown is inherently unfamiliar, and exposure makes us less scared. I could harp on all day about these games, about examples of familiarity completely removing all aspect of fear or any hope of being uneasy. In fact, I have harped on about a game in particular about this in the past. If you're interested in those sort of rants, you can have a look at my Zoochosis video or my SCP Fragmented Minds video, where I go into that in more detail. But for this video, I think it's far more valuable to explore some of the best use cases of this ideal, this idea of the fear of the unknown, to help reinforce what I mean. Think back to Subnautica, classically known as one of the best survival games ever released. By now, the number of people who have dived deep into its oceans have exceeded 5 million by far, and each of them have had to experience one thing, the very same thing that everyone else experienced in a very similar place. If you've ever watched your favorite content creators play the game, or played it yourself, I think you know the part I'm thinking of. Listening to that roar, that bone-chilling scream of something in the distance that you can't see, you can't locate, and could be coming closer at any time without you knowing, elicits such a choking, all-encompassing and gnawing fear in a new player that it can genuinely inflict a flight or fight response in some.
Fuck that place. No way. Never going there again. Nope. Nope. Nope.
That is fucking horrifying. Oh my god, it's like a demon.
Oh my god! No.
It builds that tension completely unlike that of your classic shambling zombie or wailing skeleton, because not only do you now know that something is out there, you also have no idea where that thing is, what it is capable of, or whether or not you will be safe in these waters ever again. Being taken completely out of your depth, out of your environment, and thrust into the deep oceans or deep space, depending on what game you're playing, can very much force you to confront these fears, while always being on the back foot. The Forest is a fantastic example of this. What initially seems like just a generic survival game with cannibals on the island quickly devolves into some of the most intense gameplay experiences as you delve deep into the caves to try and find out the truth of the island. Now, given enough time, exposure to the things that we are frightened of in a safe environment seriously curbs that visceral nature. The Reaper Leviathan is an example. While it can still startle veterans of the game if it sneaks up on them, with the understanding of its mechanics and how to avoid it, indeed even how to kill it, that truly visceral fear of the unknown fades away quickly. Recapturing it requires something new, something just as unique, and while the Sea Dragon and the Ghost Leviathans both spark a similar level of dread and unease in a player, it never quite hits the same highs as your first encounter with the embodiment of death in the oceans of 4546B. That being said, death is also a fascinating aspect of the fear of the unknown.
Do you feel death? Do you feel that dark abyss?
The biggest unknown in our lives is undeniably the lack of knowledge of what comes after death. Not to be confused with necrophobia, the fear of corpses. This is a fear of true death, of not understanding what comes after. It's a fear so intrinsic within our existences that as we progressed as a species, different stories and ideals blossomed by the campfires and within our cathedrals that we huddled in to try and add more meaning and understanding to the phenomenon, to fool ourselves into believing that what comes after is not something we need to be afraid of, for there is no unknown there. That said, with the fear of death being so deeply tied to our human nature that it has affected us for our entire lives, why do we not feel that same level of dread for death in a video game? Is it because, by the nature of the medium, we understand that despite our death, it will in some way continue? It's a desensitization, a separation from the medium, and an understanding that no matter what, a death is in some ways a reset, a release of the tension and a return to the status quo. Certainly, in games like Tarkov or Ark Raiders, this can carry with it its own strong emotions. Emotions of anger, or loss, or betrayal, and anxiety. You can be afraid that you're going to lose your gear, or afraid that you're going to lose respect because you died. But fear of the unknown, the fear of the death itself? It's not there. Because you know what comes after. You gear up and you try again, or you get up and you walk away. So what is the solution? Clearly we can fear the unknown like nothing else in video games. The initial anxiety of trying out Phasmophobia rendering many a player into a gibbering mess, unwilling or unable to step foot in the houses that were haunted. Other games with ghosts do not instill this instinctive terror in us. Certainly a lot scared us, made us jump out of our seats in fear, or made us wary, but the skin-crawling wrongness that Phasmophobia brought out is purely due to its ingenious manner of handling its hauntings. When you enter a house in Phasmophobia for the first time, it's quiet. The ambiance is low, the atmosphere is thick, and you take your first few steady steps into the house. That is until something, somewhere, gets angry. And that's the key, isn't it? Actually dying to the ghost is a release, similar to our earlier discussion, but up until that actually happens, until the moment that the ghost gets its grubby little hands around your throat, the ghosts are subtle, teasing and tormenting you without ever revealing themselves. When the hunt actually starts, however, it doesn't start with a jump scare, or with the ghost revealing itself and immediately running at you. It's a gradual thing. A flicker of the lights, a thumping in your ears, and even though you know that somewhere, something is coming for you, you don't know where or how. Your only instinct is to flee, to hide, to cower, and to hope with your lack of understanding of the game and the mechanics that you have somehow managed to escape. Naturally, as you put more hours into the game, learning the mechanics of the ghosts and how they function completely erases this fear, but its impact on you will never be completely gone. And it's the reason why Phasmophobia is such a powerhouse in indie horror even today. I'm talking about this today because I recently played Routine. It's a horror game set on the moon with a slightly naff story about an Adam and Eve allegory, but that's not what captivated me. See, I wanted an excuse to talk about the game, but the lore and the story and the world of Routine is relatively straightforward. The moon has a canal which has given birth to creatures that are mimicking humanity. Those creatures ate an apple, they got angry. Later on, when this was discovered by another AI, that AI shut down the previous base so that the disease would not spread that was spreading from the canal. Very straightforward story. Not a lot of interest there. What captivated me about Routine and what made me want to talk about it so much is that while the initial enemies in the experience are robots, fascinating and fun in design, brilliantly brought to life with lights, sounds, and behaviors, they are quite dull. Like the zombies we've encountered many 1,000 times before, they simply march towards you mindlessly, letting you get away or shoot them to stun them long enough to slip past. No. Act 2 changed things up drastically.
They are essentially unraveling.
Similar to Phasmophobia, similar to Subnautica, similar even to the horror masterpiece Alien Isolation, it starts off slowly. A little bit of environmental storytelling, a wisp of strange hair caught in the corner, a pile of gunk on the floor. A new tool is given to the player, but it's given to the player with a note that chills the spine. It makes you uneasy, worried, frightened. This is a creature that you do not know what it looks like, that loves to stalk people, to follow them, and possibly, probably, kill them. Papers discussing these creatures come up again and again, a part of you hoping that this seeming rampant madness in the crew has caused them to collectively hallucinate, but the more evidence you see, the more impossible it is to ignore. There is something in this base with you, something that you can't see, can't interact with, and for all intents and purposes, it will want you dead. Even when you first meet this creature, you don't see it. It's a wailing, wildly flailing chorus of screams and yells that chase you out of the area you've entered and back into an elevator. Which you take up to the upper floors, a sense of relief washing over you that you have successfully escaped. It's trapped down there and you're up here. There is no way for it to get up here. Then, when you step out of the elevator, you hear the elevator doors close. Then they open again.
Oh,
it is here. I think it just came up the elevator. What followed was one of the most harrowing hours of my time in gaming. Very similar with my early experiences with Phasmophobia. This creature wanders the halls, haunts the edges of your vision, and strikes with very little warning. Learning its mechanics took time, but it had one behavior that it showed me early. Fucking hell! That struck me to the very corner of my being. I was just walking down the hall, and I walked around a corner, and it was just sitting there, waiting. And then, when it realized I had spotted it, it struck out. Once I had acclimated to it and learned its mechanics, below the surface of my abject terror was a creature that was simply programmed to wander around, occasionally stop in a corner, rarely turn invisible, which rendered it harmless, and become stunned when I flash it with my gun, barring a cheap jump scare. Oh. This realization rendered the monster of routine an ironically routine task to work around, but for one blissful hour of my life, the fear of the unknown had gripped me and terrified me to my core. I'm in a situation right now where the fear of the unknown stalks my every step. For those of you who want an update to my YouTube situation, this is it. The only content creator to reach out to me offering support so far is Upper Echelon, who has been a great help in at least soothing my anxiety. I am in a nebulous financial situation where I have no idea whether I can afford to keep my house over my head next month, and this has definitely not helped me. But right now, I literally can't afford to fight back. Everyone who has offered supportive words, emails, and comments, thank you so much. A lot of people have recommended that I lawyer up, reach out to content creators, and scream at YouTube. And while I want to do all of that, and I have reached out to content creators, right now, the best thing for me to do until I have some form of stability underneath my feet is to just keep pushing on. The creators I've spoken to do not believe YouTube will axe my main channel due to its age and presence on the platform, but I will live in fear of that guillotine beheading me and taking everything regardless. Playing a video game with the fear of the unknown in it is a truly wonderful process. Living that life renders me sick to my stomach every waking moment. I will be streaming nearly daily at 8 PM UK time, 3 PM EST. The link is in the description. I'll also be making more content like this, interspersed between my more grandiose projects. Small anecdotes about how I see the world, how I love horror and writing and everything else. I really hope other people find it as interesting as I do. And please, discuss your opinions in the comment section down below. Do you find the fear of the unknown as terrifying as some of your other phobias? Or am I unique in that regard? Also, fuck AI for robbing me of the chance to write. I'll still write stories and scripts like this, but I'll never touch AI for it. It has robbed the soul of creativity from the world. It is being used as a crutch to prop up gargantuan, bloated, rotted corpses of companies, and it will not last. And as someone who has always been creative, it's heartbreaking. FYI, if you are a content creator and you're looking for an editor, please drop me an email at IcyCaress@gmail.com. I'd love to work with you. I'm always looking for work. Have yourselves a lovely evening, and try not to be afraid of what comes next.